Hello, and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow and become a better version of yourself. My name is Marc-alain, and together with my friend Adam, we share thoughts and ideas from the books that we read and how they enhance our personal growth and development. We also host other readers and leaders. We learn from their experiences through our discussions. Our episodes air every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening in, and let's grow together. Unbounded Growth. Hello and welcome back to Unbounded Growth. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marc-alain. I'm your host, and here with my friend and co-host, Adam Shebindu. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Definitely coming off of a tough and very challenging week. A few weeks ago, we shared that on the podcast that I tore my Achilles, which turned out that I required surgery. And that happened last week. So in my mind, I was like, okay, if I have surgery on Monday, after Monday, in the evening, we can record and have everything ready for Tuesday. And then I never heard surgery before, so I didn't know what happens after surgery. It's funny, like in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, it's my leg. So my mouth and brain and hands are still working well. But yeah, that didn't turn out to work that way. But thank God I'm doing a lot better. And I know, Adam, you're coming off a very long and busy weekend. And I know we'll be talking shortly before we get started on the book. We'll be talking shortly about the love environment and how you experience it firsthand.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was a very interesting weekend that I just had
Mm.
at Columbia University in New York City, where I was participating in a panel where I was speaking on engineering a better Africa.
Mm.
I'm an engineer by training, and as many people who listen to us might know by now, that I do lead a company, Bora Technology, over in Eastern Congo.
Mhm.
And with that, I was representing the university, the company, and at the same time also trying to spread awareness about the Congo and also the research work that
Mm.
can be done in the Congo, and also some collaborative work that we have in the US and the Congo.
Mm.
And with that, I was actually in a very interesting environment that um, we preach a lot, or we talk a lot about the lower environment.
Mhm.
I've experienced it before, but this one I experienced it at a higher level or a stronger level,
Right.
where you are in an environment where everyone is either where you are or where you want
You
to
want
be.
to be. Mm.
Yeah, and a lot of people that I met there, the executives, they are, and the way they think, it wasn't just, excuse me, the most common or average way of thinking.
Mhm.
These people think about changing the world. They are so passionate about how they could change the world, what type of impact they can actually make in the world.
Mhm.
That type of an environment, it pushes you to challenge yourself and to just be even inspired,
Mhm.
and to see that, okay, this is a place of a very healthy competition.
Right.
You're not killing each other. You are not really like torturing each
Backstabbing
other
or
there.
whatever. Yeah.
You're not backstabbing. No,
Mm.
it's just everybody has a vision.
Mhm.
They want to accomplish that vision. They want to make a huge difference to the world.
Mm.
And with that, to me, it was a great environment. And the speakers were amazing. I got a chance to actually ask direct questions to people like Fred Swaniker,
Mhm.
who is a big serial entrepreneur in Africa. He's really well known and very top with his uh, um, African Leadership Group and African Leadership Academy, where he's trained over 10,000 African youth.
Mm.
He was actually also I think, I believe in 2019, the New York Times placed him in the 100 most influential people in the world.
That's amazing.
And so he's such an inspiring African, and his story was really fascinating. He came from not having money
Mm.
to get a train from New Jersey to New York, to now running, like, he's been able to raise about $800 million now.
Wow.
And he's about 46 years old, very young and passionate African. And I was very inspired. He answered some of the questions that I had over there on leadership.
Mm.
And we had many great people that we We got to meet, and it was such a great moment. Just the environment, and I'm hoping to be a part of things like that often,
Mhm,
where I can know where I am and where I should be
mhm.
and where I should strive to be. So it was really great.
And that's amazing. I mean, talking about leadership, right after we finish up, or after we finish up with Atomic Habit, the second book that we're going to review in this second season of Unbounded Growth, will be the Five Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. So we have again time to dive back into that, understanding what is leadership and how we can grow. But we are still talking about Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's an amazing book about how you build your habit and how you improve yourself, how you become a better you. And this is our motto here on About Growth, growing a better you. We want to grow a better you. We want to grow someone that you're going to look at tomorrow in the mirror and be proud of. And one thing about becoming the person that you want to be and the person you aspire to be is what you do every day. Your tomorrow is not determined by fate. Your tomorrow is not determined by something magical that will happen in the future. Your tomorrow is determined by the habits that you build today. And you are what you are today and where you are today because of something that you did yesterday and something that went on your mind yesterday and something that you're building every single day. And we've been talking about this book for the last 2 weeks. We lost a week, unfortunately, but you know, I'm a big believer of Romans 8:28 that all things work together for good. So, just a little recap about what we've talked about so far. We started out this episode just giving a little overview about the book, and I've said personally that I'll be jumping in between Atomic Habit and Tiny Habit by BJ Fogg. Of course, we have time to talk about BJ Fogg Tiny Habit in more details, but there's also another book that James Clear mentions here a lot. Thank God I've also had the opportunity to read it, The Power of Habit. So today I may also be mentioning a few stuff that I read from The Power of Habit, and it's just interesting when you read the same idea from different authors and see that what one person explained in one way can be explained in a different way by another person that helps you understand better. So never get tired of reading that. So a quick overview about what we've talked about so far. We started by talking about the surprising power of atomic habit, about how little things, that you do today without even thinking. We talked about how your habit shape your identity, vice versa. And this example that he was giving, there's a huge difference between saying that I don't smoke and I'm not a smoker. A huge difference. We talked about that in the past and how to build better habits in 4 simple steps. And that's where we stopped last time that we talked. How do we build our habits in 4 little steps? And these 4 steps are pretty much the whole essence of the book. If you understand how these 4 steps work, of course they're simple, but they are not simple at the same time, right? They're simple, they're follows that he explains, and then he goes into details about how we actually go about that. So there are 3 things that James Clear talks about here, and we are starting here with the third chapter. And the title chapter here is how to build better habits in 4 steps. The first example he gives here, and I know MIT conducted the same research that Charles Duhigg talks about habits and how they discovered that habits were created. So in 1898, there was this story about a professor. He was called Edward Thorndike. I believe that's how you say it. Thorndike. That's how you say his name. So Thorndike was trying to understand how does the brain process habit and stuff like that. So he put little cats, in a little maze, a complicated maze where there was a leveler in that maze, and every time the cat stepped on it, if you open this little door, the cat will go through it and we get food. At the beginning of his experiment, he said that the brain activity of the cat were so high because the cat doesn't know that this is the door that opens up, the door to, this is the leveler that opened up the door for me to get food. So at the beginning of the activity, his brain was factoring a lot. The brains of the cat were factoring a lot, and they were taking longer to discover that the leveler was going to lead them. But as soon as the cat discovered that the leveler was what was opening and giving them access to the food, it became much easier for them to repeat the behavior, and it took less time. And that's when Edward started noticing the behavior changed because the habit was already learned and was requiring less brain power. I personally noticed that in the life of my son. It's amazing. I think that's one of the biggest blessing in life to raise a child. It's really amazing how many things you learn. So Adam Blaze started crawling recently, and when he started
Wow.
crawling, it's amazing. And isn't that crazy? When he started crawling, you could tell that he was still not understanding the depth of the floor, or how far away he was from the floor, how far away he was from something. And he was making this huge giant lap. You literally slapped the floor to hit it. But as he's becoming more accustomed to it, he doesn't need to lift his hand too high in order for him to scroll. Like, he's literally just lifting his head barely to leave the floor, and he start crawling. And I started noticing when I was reviewing the book before the podcast, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what happens with our brain. We learn a behavior. It's hard at first, but once the behavior gets wired into our brain, it becomes a habit, and the habit becomes easier to do. Think about it, how crazy it is if every morning you had to relearn everything you've ever learned in life. If every morning you had to relearn to speak, you had to relearn to tie your shoe, you had to relearn to brush your teeth, you had to relearn to take a shower, we won't survive in this world. And that's the both the blessing of habits and also the curse of habits. Because once you've built a bad habit, it becomes automatic. And this is what James Clear talks about here, the four steps that we discuss shortly.
Yeah, and so he went on deep about this idea of um, making things very automatic,
Mm,
and it also can be related to how far the world has come,
right.
where things used to be very manual and very hard and very so thought about,
Hmm.
and that was not producing any very efficient things to get done.
Mm,
However, with uh, the creation of machinery and automatism,
hmm.
things have become, even you don't even have to think about it anymore. It
Mm,
just happens,
right.
and that's what, when you create habits for something you really want,
Hmm.
that's how it becomes. It builds efficiency,
Mm,
and he gives a lot of advantage of that, and he been talking about that. That's habits are these mental shortcut
mm,
that after you have struggled, you have had this long experience of uh, exhaustion, and again starting all over, and like the cats and the example that he gives there,
yeah.
where starting all over, exhausted and so on. Once you get the habits,
Hmm.
it becomes a shortcut.
Mm,
And actually, what's funny is um, when it even in biology,
hmm.
these things tend to happen.
Right.
There is a there are two things that's a lot of, I mean, you learn a lot of things in biology, but two things can be summarized when it comes to physiology and biology.
Hmm.
There's the phenotype and there's the genotype.
I heard about those terms sometimes, but I cannot remember what they mean for the
Yeah,
life of
so
me.
the genotype,
Yeah.
genotype is the code behind, is the DNA string,
Okay.
right? The the DNA sequences.
Yes.
And the phenotype is the behavior, the stuff that we actually see, like the shape of your eye, the shape and the color of your eyes,
Hmm.
the color of your hair. Those are phenotype.
Right.
So, and something that's have been remarked or realized is that the change in the phenotype directly starts changing the genotype.
Mm,
Like, you'll be, by choice or not,
mhm,
like for example, you will be having a certain form
mhm,
of your body, or a certain you see, like, you've been carrying like a huge load on your head or something like that,
mhm.
and you spend like so many years just doing that.
Right.
Then even the growth of your cells,
Mm.
it just follows the same path.
So
the
if
shape
I
of your
understand,
body.
if I understand what you're saying, is if something changes physically on us, it can affect or it will affect our genes and the
It
way.
can affect your genes
Mm,
over time.
okay.
Over time.
Mm,
So there is a lot of things that you can do at the physical level. That
right.
it's actually something that's because before I was not a stronger believer in evolution because I was saying myself that evolution actually contradicts genetics,
Right.
and that's it doesn't mean like things that are changing on your outside on your phenotype when
Yeah.
you're evolving that not
Hmm.
change actually you are inside, but actually it does.
Mm,
There's a lot of evidence that those things happen, and it's similar. It's the same thing that I want to relate here to habits.
right.
That's whenever you keep on applying doing the same thing over and over, it becomes very automated in you.
Hmm.
It makes who you are in the inside.
Mm,
Something that started directly outward
hmm.
defines your inner person.
Oh, got it. Got it.
And yeah, and that's kind of the idea behind here, and that's why picking and being very intentional
Mm,
about your habits.
mm,
I have a I have a journal actually that I went back to on tracking my habits because
right.
I've been slacking a
Slacking
lot
off.
on
Yeah.
things. Yeah, and uh, when you are very intentional about what you do,
Hmm.
and when you do it, it builds who you are in the inside.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
I see.
because
Mm,
yeah, we have heard so much about whatever is the inside is gonna the outside the reflection of the inside.
hmm.
But what I'm telling you that the outside will define your inner self.
Mm,
And and here James Clear is actually putting it that he say like for you to he give those 4 steps for you to be able to get so to change your habits or to get a new habit or um, either it's a good or bad habit. You start with a cue,
hmm.
talk about a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward.
Mm,
And he put those as the 4 things that are put together. And he gives a free example.
mm,
He said, like, for example, a cue can be your phone buzzes
mm,
with a new text message, and your craving is you want to learn the context, your content of the message, and you really crave to
hmm.
learn that.
Hmm.
As a response, you grab your phone without even thinking.
Mm,
Since it's already an instilled habit, you grab your phone,
hmm.
and as a reward, you feel great for reading the text.
Right.
And directly grabbing your phone becomes associated with your phone buzzing.
Buzzing. Mm,
So it's the logic there, and he gives so many other example on
examples on that.
how
Hmm.
on how craving work and how the few things that you can go through things
So,
and then he gives an advice.
hmm,
Just kind of to wrap up my thoughts process here.
hmm,
He gave an advice. He say that if you want to change your behavior,
hmm,
you should ask you. There are 4 questions, and that's in each one of them. He make it into a law
hmm,
that we're gonna be exploring in the next few chapters. Is that he say, how can I make it obvious?
hmm.
If you wanna change anything in your life, you have to go. How can I make it obvious? Obvious. How can I make it attractive? How can I make it easy?
Hmm.
And how can I make it satisfying? Which goes again with the Q is the first thing, the craving, attractive,
Hmm.
and then he has the response that he has there is easy, like
Hmm.
something very easy,
Right.
and the satisfaction, which is the reward. And everything we do in life actually is based on those things.
Mm. And thank you, Adam, for sharing that. And I know we definitely roll back and dive deeper into each of those questions and each of those law, and maybe give you a little more examples that it gives to understand how your habits are created. I just want to return to that idea you talk about the genotype and the phenotype. you know I was actually, I was trying to reconnect the dots about a podcast that I listen to a lot. Chris Lewis, Lewis Halls with the School of Greatness. He has some amazing guests that he usually has on his podcast. And one time I was listening to him. He was interviewing Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscience, a very well-known neuroscience, and he talked about the same idea about how your internal thoughts or your internal idea or your internal identity can affect your external identity, but that also works vice versa. The things that you do on the outside can also start affecting your inside. It's probably an idea a little similar but a little bit parallel to what Adam is talking about. But the idea that Dr. Harmon talked about was, when, for example, when they tell someone who's stressed, right, and they tell you relax, is that enough? Is that enough to tell someone relax and the person just relaxes? Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes telling the person relax doesn't work. But if the same person goes on to run and do exercises, automatically what he's doing on the outside start affecting his inside and start affecting his brain. Now, his blood is circulating more and he's getting more blood in his brain. His vessels expand as he's exercising, and as a consequence, when the person sits down, now the person is relaxed. But sometimes, simply telling the person calm down can be enough to calm the person down, where the interior can start affecting the exterior, but also the exterior can at some point affect the interior. And now, to go back to the idea about building your habits, it's not enough to just have goodwill. It's not enough to think, okay, all I need is some type of positive motivation. Sometimes your motivation comes as you do whatever that you're trying to do, as you're trying to build a habit. If you wait for motivation, I like this quote by Zig Ziglar. I know y'all heard me call Zig Ziglar a lot, but Zig Ziglar used to say that if you wait until all the lights are green, you will never leave the house. In other words, if you wait until everything is perfect around you, you will never start building those habits. And sometimes building those habits is just a matter of starting where you were with what you have. As you move along, you get to a point where you can see more, learn more, and do more. And it's very crucial and important, especially if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to write, to think, to spend some time alone. And Adam and I were talking about this before we started the podcast, embracing the idea of boredom. And I know we stopped doing this, but we need to go back to it, telling you about maybe the books that we are currently reading. There's a book I'm currently reading about hyperfocus. How can you be more focused in a world of more distraction? And they all embrace the same idea. What is it that you can do on the external to start affecting your internal? I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you want to lose weight, right? And every morning you wake up, you do not have the drive or the motivation to go do what you need to do. And this is where I'll bring a little bit of BJ Fogg ideas. BJ Fogg suggests that, first of all, sleep in your working out gear. Don't sleep in your pajamas. Sleep in your working out gear and put your running shoes right next to your bed. When you wake up in the morning, BJ Fogg actually suggests you. He said, do not go run. Don't go try to go to the gym or whatever. He says, well, go to the gym. If you're going to the gym, the first thing you can do, just go down to your car and turn on your car. Every day. At 6 a.m. when you wake up, your alarm goes off. And that's where you see what Adam was talking about and what we're about to dive into. There is a cue, there's a craving, there's a response, and there's a reward. You can wire your brain or rewire your brain, such as when your phone goes off, your alarm goes off, your first thought is, put on my shoes. You change that from, I need to check on my social media, I need to do this. You sleep thinking and knowing that the first thing when my alarm goes off is to put on my running shoes. The second thing, as soon as I put on my running shoes, I get my keys and I get my car. When I get my car, the third thing, as soon as I get in my car, I turn on the car and just stop there. If you still don't have enough motivation to go to the gym, okay, go back home and take another nap, But at that point, most of the times when I was trying before my injury happened and I was trying to exercise a little more, by the time you've done all those steps, by the time I wake up and I put on my training gear and I take my rope and I'm about to go to the balcony, by the time I make it to the balcony, the motivation that was not there kind of magically just appears. is because of the habit that we build. And James Clear gives a definition here that I won't repeat. I know Adam just talked about it. Say your habits are just a series of automatic solutions that solve the problems and the stresses you face regularly. And then Jason Hera talks about something else here. Say habits are simply reliable solution to recurring problems in our environment. And habits are just like a memory, the steps that you've previously followed, as Adam was saying, to solve the problem. And once you know that this works to solve this problem, you start repeating the steps again and again, and that's how your habits are wired. And Charles Duhigg in The Power of Habit gives a different approach to the habit loop. He talks about not only the cue, he talks about the cue and the reward, but the craving and the response, that's where your habit happen. The craving and the response. What craving is created when you get the cue, and what response do you give when you get to it? So the sense of habit, as Adam was explaining, there's a cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. Now, let's dive into the cue. The first thing that the cue says is that it's the thing that triggers your brain to initiate the behavior. And Adam was giving a very, very important example here when it comes to our phones. How do we learn to use our phones all the time? And I was having a discussion with my brother and my mom and Plamidi, my wife, yesterday. We were talking about, why do kids love Cocomelon? And as I was reflecting on this book, I realized that kids don't necessarily love Cocomelon. It is us parents that have trained kids to respond to everything with Cocomelon. When a kid is crying, what's the first thing you do? You pull up your phone, put a Cocomelon, you give to the kid. The brain of the child is learning, oh, so when I cry and there's Cocomelon, it's supposed to calm me. Well, when the kid is eating and is crying, what's the first thing we do? We take it, we put Cocomelon again, we give to the kid. The kid and the kid's brain has learned another behavior. Every time I cry or every time I'm eating, I need to listen to Cocomelon. And guess what? Over time, the response to every child's behavior becomes Cocomelon because you have been training your child to respond to whatever situation of life by listening to Cocomelon. He's crying in the back of the car, put on Cocomelon. He's not wanting to sleep, put on Cocomelon. The kid is crying, put on Cocomelon. And every time we create that cue, the kid, for example, is looking at the reward. Oh my God, I just want to be satisfied. The cue is created as soon as you put Cocomelon, the craving is there. And the response, he comes down. And this goes the same way even with adults today. When you're stressed, let's look at a few more examples. When you're stressed, what do? Some people, when they're stressed, they start biting their nails. Some other people, when they're stressed, they start, binging on Netflix or something. Some other people, when they're stressed, they become unproductive like you have no idea. And every behavior that you exhibit today has been built into some habits that you've got accustomed to. And that's why we told you a few weeks ago, and it's very important if you haven't done it, to go back to it. List your habits. And we'll talk a little bit about it a little later, but that's the cue. Someone says at work it's lunchtime, you stop doing everything you're doing, you pick up your jacket, you head for the door. As soon as you hear it's lunchtime, even if you're not hungry, your stomach starts craving right away. That's the cue. Now, what is the craving, Adam?
Yes. So when it comes to the cue here, and just to kind of piggyback to what you just mentioned about the cue and the craving and picking it up from there. And so when it comes to the actual craving, once you pick up the cue, and I think one of the examples also he uses is like when you're driving to work, right? When you're driving to work and then you smell McDonald's on your way, or you smell chicken wings.
Adam, let me give you a crazy thing I read a few years ago. Do you know that McDonald's almost sued because they were actually spraying the smell of McDonald's on the street? so that people could be attracted. It's crazy how far
and,
these marketers
and
can
that's
go.
actually what it is. Actually, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Mm,
So craving on its own is actually um, what James Clear called the problem phase.
mm,
They're like whenever you are in the problem phase, whenever you have an issue, first um, the cue is what is the smell,
mhm,
and the smelling becomes or the smell or the craving becomes the it becomes the consequence
mm.
of that cue.
And the craving
It
now,
creates
yeah, you kind
yeah.
of think
So the
about the
craving,
reward that the craving is going to give you.
yeah,
Mhm,
exactly.
mm,
So the cue is just something that triggers you,
right.
and then within yourself,
Mhm,
the craving is a direct need,
mm,
and it's something looking for satisfaction, looking for a quick fix,
mm,
like for people who take drugs and so
right.
on.
Mm,
It's like you will see one thing and then you need this very quick fix.
mhm,
And once you get a quick or like a very, very quick fix,
mm,
then at that time, that's basically you respond to it. You want to fix it really quickly. You respond to it.
mm,
And then you feel satisfied is a reward
mm,
at the end at the end of it.
mhm,
So you start, our brain always look for shortcuts for things.
right.
Then it becomes very automated.
Mhm,
It becomes something that you can execute like really um, quickly without even thinking.
mhm,
Like you will walk into a dark room.
mm.
Think about it, right? You walking into a dark room, and now even the new designers, like current designers,
Where
they've
you just
designed
walk in and
every
the
room
light comes on.
with basically like all the switches,
Sensors
yeah,
and
like
detectors.
right behind the door that you don't even think about it. The queue is the dark room.
Right.
Craving is like, yeah, I want to be able to see. You are
Mhm,
craving to see so bad,
mhm,
and what do? You don't even think about it. You flip on the switch,
mm,
and then you can see. Then you satisfy your craving.
mhm,
Craving is what actually gets satisfied
mm,
whenever we do something. So if you crave something and then you're getting something out of it,
mhm,
everything else is an action, right?
right.
Satisfaction and craving, they are not actions.
Right. Mm,
In between satisfaction and craving, there has to be an action there that
mhm,
you do.
mhm.
And that's the most critical part of a habit.
That
At least
response
in my
part of
opinion,
yeah. Mm,
after reading James Clear,
mhm,
is response
mm,
is what build the system for you.
right.
Response, how you are responding to a craving
Mhm,
is actually what defines if that's gonna be a habit that you stay with,
mhm.
or that's gonna basically not be it anymore. And in this case here, he's talking about it as making it obvious
Yes.
and not, making it easy. Actually, the response
Mhm,
is that if now your response to anything, you can be craving something.
mhm.
Let's say, for example, you are craving a very not this one restaurant food.
Well, I'm craving donuts right
Like
now.
yeah, like I have I usually have craving for a restaurant called Nando's.
Mhm,
Nando's is only in the DC area. There's a few ones in Chicago and maybe a couple in New Jersey.
mm,
It's kind of it's a South African feel. Their chicken almost tastes like Goma chicken. And
right.
it's nostalgic to me when I eat it. I will be craving, I will see a queue. I'll go on the internet and see a picture of like Goma food, somebody in Goma,
Mm,
and then I'll start craving, right? But the restaurant is in New Jersey
mm,
or somewhere in DC,
right.
which means it will won't be a habit to me.
Right. Mm.
I won't have a response because the response is very hard to achieve.
And that's when
That you
you
want
I
any,
think you're already talking about how to destroy bad habits,
yeah.
make
So
it inaccessible. Mm,
yeah. So it's basically yeah, and that's I'm already kind of introducing that part of it is like
mm,
yeah, it's when it's too complicated, it becomes very hard to
right.
actually achieve. But but then you get it whenever. So our bodies now start creating these systems.
Mhm.
This it's not playing on efficiency.
And now all that plays into the response part of it.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's all. I think the main, actually, the huge parts of habits, if you're gonna work on is been on the response.
How you respond to
And
it. Mm.
yeah, and if we can just move a little bit forward
Uh,
on the first look here.
there's
Um,
actually two things I wanted to mention here before we move forward. So your response when it comes to your habit, they can be automated, but if you're trying to build new habits, there's something else to put in consideration. In order for you to respond to something, which is the new habit or the habit that you're trying to create, you need to have the motivation because, and that's where BJ Fogg says that if you don't have, nothing happens without motivation. If your dopamine level are so low that you don't have any motivation to do anything, nothing can happen. And if you want to build a new habit, you need to have some level of motivation. But motivation is not something you can fully rely on all the time because sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. And when you don't have all the motivation, because listen, if we take motivation on the scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no motivations at all, and 10 being great motivation, if you are very motivated, you just need a little bit ability in order for you to carry on the behavior. But if you're not motivated, let's say your motivation is around a 1 maybe, then your ability to do the habit, you need to make the habit so small and so easy for you to do that you do not need a lot of motivation in order for you to do it. So when there's no motivation, even when you're able to do the behavior, you won't do it. Behavior just do not happen without motivation. And now the second thing about ability, which is I think very, very important, you cannot perform a behavior if you are not capable of doing the behavior. And that's very important. So if you want to learn a behavior, you need to also increase your knowledge and your ability to do the behavior. I'll give an example. When I started, and which I haven't done in the last 7 days, I think I shared this about 2 weeks ago that I created a new cue, a new craving, a new response to a certain behavior. I try to drink a lot of water during the day. I try, and the best way for me to do it is just to set 8 bottles of water in front of me. And every time I drink water, I do a little lap dance and I do a little dance and on my chair just to create that enjoyment. I'm tricking my brain to learn that drinking water is good. And that's how babies learn behaviors. When a baby stands up and everybody in the house claps, the baby knows that every time I stand up is a good thing. So his brain retains the behavior, which is very important. Now, every time I drink like a cup of water, and sometimes it's hard, sometimes like I just don't have the drive of it, then I'll have a little cup and drink water. As soon as I drink water, I'll clap hands for myself. I was like, yeah, go Mark. That's how you do it. The consequence of it was that I started using the restroom more often. And sometimes like, man, I want to do more push-ups in a day. My goal is at some point to do about 200 to 500 push-ups a day. I'm not there yet. Can I do 50 push-ups every morning? Probably not. It's hard. I mean, I just woke up. It's kind of hard for me to do it. But I created another mechanism. I say every time I use the restroom, I'll wash my hands and then I'll do 15 to 20 push-ups. And I ended up, at the end of my days, I had like 100 push-ups, 200 push-ups. Because every time I go to the restrooms and I'll use the restrooms, I'll wash my hands. Washing the hands became the cue for me. As soon as I turn on the tap, I know, oh, it's time for push-ups. Even when I'd forgotten, I'll do my 15 push-ups and then I'll do my little dance and then come back out. And my brain started learning that behavior. But in order for me to do push-ups, I had to learn how to do proper push-ups, how to increase my ability. I don't care how much motivation you have. If you can't do push-ups, you won't do it. If you want to do push-up with one hand, I can't do it right now. But eventually, probably in the future, I'll be able to do it. So it doesn't matter how much motivation you give me. I also need to increase my ability to do it. So going back to just what Eden was saying, the reward is the end in the process. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward that you are looking for. So the main reason for chasing the reward is that the reward satisfies us, they teach us. And those are the main reasons why people keep on returning to some reward. If you get that satisfaction, you smell McDonald's and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, the double mac and cheese, I want to get some of it. You eat it, now your anger's quenched, you've learned a behavior. And if jumping guns a little bit, and I know we talk about it more in details, as Adam was saying, if you want to destroy a behavior, one of the things that you do, you make it hard to attain. For example, if McDonald's is like 2 miles away from your house, you can decide every time I crave McDonald's, I'm going to walk to McDonald's and come back. Now, if you think about walking 2 miles, I don't know about you. I don't think that's an activity I enjoy much. If I have to think about walking for 2 miles to get McDonald's and come back home, I probably just won't do it. And I'll stay at home. And of course, it's not as simple as sometimes when we make it seem, but even the most complicated things usually take simple steps to accomplish. All right, now,
Yes.
go ahead,
Mhm.
Adam.
Yeah. So to just now kind of jump forward here,
Mm.
because we probably just have a few minutes to
Yeah,
go
probably about
before,
15 minutes.
before we can wrap it up.
Mm,
I wanted to just tap into the first law.
mm.
Uh, the the first law of behavior change, basically. I say make it obvious.
Make it obvious.
Yeah, and he went on and start telling a story that our human eyes and our human perception,
Mm.
they are very fast to tell things when you're used to them.
Right.
So he's saying that it's very easy if you are a nurse, even if you are not, let's say, a doctor directly, but you've seen something in a repeated fashion so
Mhm,
many times,
mhm,
you are more likely again to understand it or to get it if it's happened again.
mm,
And one of the points that he makes is say that the human brain is a prediction machine.
mm,
It's continuously taking in your surroundings
mhm,
and analyzing the information it comes across.
mm,
So every time your everything that you pick
mhm,
everywhere
mhm,
in the society, it becomes stored in you
mhm,
and it becomes very subconscious,
mm.
which means you can directly in your favor and apply it. Actually, it's interesting how I was having a conversation with our boss today,
Mm.
um, and during the conversation, I was telling her
Mhm,
that it's interesting when you are an engineer and you are in an environment where there are patients,
mm.
especially like a biomedical engineer like us.
Right.
It's very different when, let's say, you do most of your biomedical engineering stuff in the lab and
Mhm,
so on is very different from when you do biomedical engineering. You are already have an engineering mind and you are in a hospital, for example.
mm,
Why? Because you are exposed constantly
mm,
to things happening.
mhm,
You are seeing that, and since your mind has been trained to to analyze, to be an analyst, that's why a lot of our engineering
mhm.
skills give us
Yeah.
analytical thinking.
Mhm,
So since you have a very analytical mind,
mm,
you tend to see what the doctors are not saying,
mhm.
what everybody else is not seeing. And that's how some of the most amazing technology when it comes
I
to
invented.
the health
Mhm,
industry have been invented.
mhm,
And it's just why he's putting he's putting out these statements,
mm,
and he say that those things become internalized and become very subconscious.
mm,
It's say that it's you know even our bodies
mm,
make them into a system.
mhm,
That's even how our body functions. Like you gave an example of Ed and Blaze.
mm,
It's just he started trying again, and they see like, oh yeah, this thing work.
mhm,
He become very automated and very 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 fast
mm,
based on just different observation that you're being
mhm,
exposed to. And that's how basically even you know the stomach works,
mm,
how we breathe, and how it becomes it's our entire body actually. The word he uses, and I found it really interesting,
Hmm.
is that our entire body operates on autopilot.
Yep. Yep.
It's nobody's telling your lungs
To to breathe or
to inhale
expand
or
or
exhale,
yeah.
all that stuff. No, it's been happening like that, and it has become a systemic, and it's very unconscious, and it's keep on happening.
Hmm.
And and he make a set statement here that I really really like.
Yeah.
He says, until you, and he was quoting Carl Jung,
Hmm.
and he say, until you make the unconscious conscious,
Hmm.
it will direct your life, and you will call it fate.
That's very profound.
Until you as long as you keep living your entire life, we breathe unconsciously for
Hmm.
free.
Hmm.
We You wake up and walk, and you don't even think about it. You don't have to adapt to anything when you're walking.
You tell me about
You
not
could
being able to walk and using crutches.
you, that,
You take for granted walking, man.
yeah, that's actually a thing, because now you have to learn this
Oh
whole
my
other
god.
thing.
You know,
And
to be honest, my prayers and thoughts are out there for everybody having any type of disability. You know, the world is, being healthy and walking and all that. It's something that I would never take for granted again.
yeah, and that's also now you think about it as a very physical thing.
Mm,
And that's why it gets very noticed.
right.
But now imagine of how much things are happening behind the scene of what is physical,
That you don't ever see.
that you don't ever see, like
Mm,
subconsciously,
mhm,
like picking up your phone how many times a day, or um, all the activities that you tend to do every day.
mm,
The way, when you get up, brush your teeth, do all that stuff, you repeat the same thing all over and over, the same exact way.
mm,
At work, you have different habits that's just keep on following you, and that's how you stay there.
mhm.
And as he said, yeah, you're gonna end up calling it fate. While it has been like the cues and everything was so clearly and so obvious over there, but since you're not intentional
Mm,
about it,
mhm.
you call it fate at the end of the day.
Yeah. And the idea about the subconscious mind, and I think we we probably have maybe a conversation about it in the future. There's this book, this writer. He was called maybe the father of the subconscious mind and stuff like that. I struggled personally to read this book. Maybe someone who's read it may give me some feedback. Is Joseph Murphy. He wrote a book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. I read the introduction, probably the first two chapters of the book, and I've watched a few videos about explaining, and I've read some other readers, some other writers who talked about the power of the subconscious mind. So the whole idea about the subconscious mind is the things that you do not think about, but that happen automatically. And this is how, James Clear is talking about the habits are formed. The subconscious mind can work for or against you. It works for you when you have built positive habits. It works against you when you've built negative habits. And the way the subconscious mind works is that the subconscious mind does not think, right? The subconscious mind is probably, think about it like as an executor. It's just there to carry on the command that have already been pre-installed in you. That's why you don't think when you're brushing your teeth. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I don't. It doesn't require me any brain activity when I'm brushing my teeth. But I still remember when mom was teaching me how to brush my teeth. It was a very simple, but process that I had to follow and remember almost every morning. The way I had to hold my brush, the way I had to brush my teeth, and if you want to notice how much you do not think about activities like that, try brushing your teeth with your opposite hand for a few days. You will realize all of a sudden that
Mhm.
you are present while you're brushing your teeth because you have to relearn how to hold your toothbrush. You have to relearn how to move it up and down. And if you keep at it for like a week, for like a month, I started doing it about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I started brushing my teeth with my left hand. I'm right-handed. And at first, it took me much longer to brush my teeth because I was there. I knew that I had to hold my brush a certain way, and the toothpaste didn't have to fall off my face and things like that. But today, a year later, I don't think about it. I go to the bathroom, put on my toothpaste on my toothbrush, and start brushing my teeth without even thinking about it, because the habit has gone from the conscious mind to the subconscious mind. It's the same thing when you start driving. When you start driving, you are paying attention to everything. And I remember, I know most of us here, if you drive, you probably remember the first day you drive. You probably remember even when you signal and say, yes, I got to that corner, and then I signal. But today, those things just happen automatically because they've left your conscious mind where you make decisions, and they've gone to your subconscious mind, which just carries on all the decisions that you make. And it gives a funny example here that I think we need to talk about in the next 10 minutes that we have left here. It says that there was a clerk. She had one habit. They told her that every time a customer comes with a gift card, swap their gift card. If their gift card has a balance of zero, cut the gift card and put it in the trash. So she kept on doing that. Every time a customer would come, gift card, she'll swap, and then balance zero. She put out a scissors, cut the gift card and put it in the trash. And then one time, this guy came and actually handed off a credit card. She took the credit card, swapped it, pulled up a knife, and cut the credit card in two. The habit had become so automatic in her that she no longer needed to think before making those decisions. And that's where James Clear talks about making your unconscious decision conscious. And one of the strategies that he gives about it, it says to point and call your habit. Learning to point and call your habit. And I'll explain how this pointing and calling works. It means that before you do something, you say it out loud by pointing at it. Let's say, for example, tomorrow morning you wake up, you're about to pick up your phone, and you say loudly, I am about to pick up my phone, and I'm about to scroll on my social media. I know this is not a good habit that I'm trying to stop. Say that loudly. Your brain actually will stop for a second. It's like you short circuit. What's the word? Short circuit. You have to short
Yeah,
circuit.
you short circuiting
Yeah,
it.
you're short
Yeah.
circuiting your habit, and it's like, hey, wait, pause. This is where we need to stop. I'm about to do this, and now you take your unconscious decision that happens automatically and becomes conscious, and now you can make a decision about what you're about to do.
And there's something that has helped me actually with this particular chapter or this particular part of the book,
Mm.
the habit scorecard.
Scorecard.
That's why he called it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think he's also on his website. Actually, you can download a few of the tools from this book from his website.
Yeah.
And this scorecard is what actually helped me now, start studying and actually fixing. And for example, I struggle so much um, bringing my ID to work. ID. I need that to get in the building. I need that. That's the badge, right?
Mhm.
You need to get that.
Right.
But I was really getting to work. I'm like, oh shoot, I don't have it. Okay, I need to go home and then pick it up. But what I've started doing is like um, but, pointing and calling.
Mhm.
I got my shoe. I got my wallet. I got my backpack. It's funny when you do it actually.
I
It's
know.
it's so subconscious, right? When
Mhm.
when you're doing it just naturally and fast. But when you actually have to call it, you're like, yeah, what is missing? Okay, I got my wallet,
Mhm.
I got my keys, I got this, I got that, I locked the door, I did that, and no, it actually makes put you in charge of your life, though.
Right. Right.
It puts you in charge and in control of everything that goes on around you. And he said
Mhm.
that many of our failures in performance are largely attributable to a lack of self-awareness.
Mhm.
When you are not aware of whatever, that's when actually failure happens.
Yes.
What you don't know is actually what comes after you and destroys you.
Mm-hmm.
What you know, you should have control over it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of, like, yeah, I'd say the knowledge is power and so on, for like it's commonly used, but it's what it is. When you are self-aware
Mm-hmm.
of things around you, of your own life or your own habits, it makes a huge impact in your life. It makes a huge difference, because now you are the guy in charge,
Mm-hmm.
and things become very natural.
Right.
You know,
Mm.
it becomes very, very something that you can do. And one thing he does with his scoreboard is that, he set up a few things.
Mm.
He said when it's a positive habit in the morning, like the first thing you do, and the positive habit, you put a positive sign. When you're writing down or tracking down your habits,
Mm.
you put a positive sign next to it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a neutral habit, you put an equal sign,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's a negative habit, you put a negative sign.
And Adam, I think
And
this should be one thing our listeners will suggest that you do. Make a list, for example, of all your morning habit from the time you wake up to the time you go to work. What is the list of everything that you do or that you can think of right now? And go through this exercise. Positive habit, put a plus. Negative habit, put a minus. And neutral habit, just put equal. And then it gives another definition about positive. Positive, it has a positive outcome, right? Eating healthy breakfast in the morning, positive outcome. Browsing your social media for 2 hours in bed, probably not the outcome that you're looking for. And waking up, is neither positive or negative. I think it's kind of positive. If you don't wake up, that's not good. But
yeah,
yeah, carry on, Adam.
yeah. So yeah, basically call it neutral,
Mm-hmm.
right? You say that, yeah, when you wake up, you call it neutral. You turn off your alarm. It's just, it's a regular thing you should do. It's no good or bad to turn off your alarm. I mean, you better turn off your alarm, because otherwise it's gonna be so annoying.
Right.
Um, you know, check your phone, maybe not so good in the morning. So like, just you track all these things. And I have this journal. I think it's called the best journal ever.
Mm.
Whoever the company that makes them, they make it called the best journal ever. And that's journals particularly. It has all these things on, right? So you have
Mm.
the habit tracking, and like by page, and you wanna set goals, and I wanna get rid of this habit. So um, if you cannot say it, you can write it maybe.
Mm.
And if you're going back to that, don't just write in the journal and then keep it in there.
Right.
And then it's like, because journals tend to be like things that people think about, like for the future or whatever. But I try to go back to the journal and
Yes.
try to see what actually the habits.
What's going on in your
But you
life and
can,
all that.
yeah.
Mm.
But calling things out is really so important.
It's very
Like,
effective.
for example, like the example say, like, he said, I'm about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it.
Mm.
Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health. So once you tell that to yourself, okay, go ahead and eat the cookie, but you are self-aware
That's a
of
decision you've
this.
made now. It just didn't process in your mind without thinking about it. You actually paused and made a decision.
Yeah, and to wrap up this chapter here, he makes a really good statement that I really like, and he say the process of behavior change
Mm.
always starts with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to change your behavior, if you want to change your life, like John Maxwell said, growth starts with intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Over here, for behavior, starts with getting aware of what is going on.
You can't change what you don't know.
You can change what you don't know. You
Mm.
have to actually know, you are aware. You have to be in charge of your own life.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to be in charge, you have to be aware of every one of your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? What is your routine?
Mm.
What is your routine? What is the most common thing about you
Mm-hmm.
that is like you do without thinking?
Mm.
Once you know what you do without thinking, that I've really been. And sometimes when I think about what I do without thinking, it bugs me so much.
Right.
I'm like, do I really do, like, when I'm stressed
Mm-hmm.
or when I'm feeling down? Like, there's certain things I do, and I'm like, oh no, like, and then actually, especially when when I look at that's why I like whenever I'm speaking, whenever I'm in public, or whatever, whenever I'm doing something that I want to go back to, I want to be recorded.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't like the camera, but I don't mind the camera
Mm.
because then I look at the video, I look at the work, and I'm like, yeah, this. I keep on doing this. I keep on
Right.
doing making this action, making this action. It's giving me a very mirrored
Mm.
um image of like it's making me self-aware that hey, I keep on touching my glasses. I keep on touching my glasses. Like
Yes.
I do not have to be touching my glasses all the time. So it's not falling, nothing's happening, but
Right.
I keep on touching my glasses, and it has become such a habit, it's kind of a stress relief. That I think also the guy in the Business Secrets from the Bible, I believe, or John Maxwell or actually Magic of Thinking Big.
Mhm.
One of those books actually talk a lot about those type of stuff that when you're stressed
What
you
are the things
you
that you
develop
do?
all these type of
Yes.
yeah, these
And
type of things that you actually associated with, it becomes a behavior.
that's what even Charles that he talks about, in the power of habit. It nails down on this lady that had the habit of eating her nails, and in order for him to help her stop eating her nails, they had to find out what was the cue that was causing her to start eating her nails. And it's very important, as Adam said. I think it's even helped me a lot, even in my public speaking and all that. I remember when I first started in the public speaking era, I was so nervous, being an introvert naturally, that every time I spoke, I used to hum, um, and listening to myself, I was getting annoyed. I was like, why do I keep on humming? And the fact that I was listening to myself and I was watching myself actually helped me improve, as Adam say. So it's very important to learn what are the habits that you have. And this podcast is not just about telling you good stories about book. We want you to take action. We want you to actually sit down. As soon as you get to work, as soon as this episode is done, sit down or even pause it right now and start boning down your habits. What are the things? And at this stage here, James Clear suggests that don't try to change anything. We are just wanting you to list down everything that you have. What do you do in the morning? What do you do at work? Why do you want to be more productive at work? Start tracking your habits. What are the things that are making you less productive? And we are just a little bit 2 minutes over the hour here. We are going to stop this episode here. Next time, next Tuesday, we start talking about the best way to start a new habit. And that's very important. I'm so excited and so thrilled that we'll be talking about this very new chapter about what are the things that you can do to start building your habit. I'm also writing the summaries of this note, and I think in the near future here we're going to share it on our Instagram page. It doesn't give you the full picture of the book, but it gives you the point that I believe are important in every single chapter. I share them with Adam today, and he's probably going to give me a feedback, and we decide how we can share them on Instagram. If you don't have time to read the whole book and you've been listening to the podcast and you just want to take some action, you can go on there, read this summary. It's less than 30 pages on a 300 pages book, and we encourage you to do more than just listening. Take action, do something. We want to grow. Our desire, our goal, our prayer is to grow a better you every day. And if it's your first time here, hit the subscribe button. Listen to us more. Share with your friends. Share the book with your beloved ones so that they can learn. They can also improve themselves and improve new habits. And if you want to support us financially, do not forget you can go to www.theunbotheredgrowth.com. And we also here with our sponsors. Bora Technology has been really getting our back. If you want to support the work that Bora Technology is doing in the Congo, actually providing scholarship for kids other than the technology advancement, engineering a better Africa. We've been doing a lot of work in the community, helping kids return to school. And with the war that is tearing up Eastern Congo right now, there's more humanitarian work that we are doing out there. If you want to learn more about it, you can contact us at info@theunbotheredgrowth.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with that we will finishing today. Thank you again for expanding your hour with us, and thank you for always tuning in and listening in. For the rest of your week, before I say it, Adam, anything else?
No, that's all I have for today, and really thank you so much for tuning in and for the people who have been around for a long time. Thank you so much for keeping up with us. And we know last week I was receiving so many texts and so many messages. It was very comforting to know that this is really exciting. People are always excited to hear us out every week, and we really appreciate the time you spent with us. And for new people who are just joining in, we're welcoming you to this new journey, that we've been following for uh, over, I believe, 3 months now.
Absolutely.
So really, really thank you for joining us, and we hope that what we are pushing forward here opens up a way for you to keep on growing.
And thank you so much for your thoughts and prayers for, for my quick recovery. And I thank God that I'm working from home, so he hasn't disturbed me a whole lot. But be safe out there. Take care of your families. Let not fear lead or control your life. And God bless you. Bye bye.